everyone. In today's video, we are going to be going down the ritual path, otherwise known as 4-2 in our Demon Souls easy walkthrough. If you haven't been following this series, the very first video is one that I would strongly recommend because it shows you how to get endgame armor and up to a 25,000 soul head start in the very first area of the game, which will give you a huge boost in your adventures. So we are going to go into the ritual path. Now, as far as item equipment and things go, we are going to equip our main hand will be the Dragon Longsword, which I have actually upgraded to +5. You should be able to get most of the materials to upgrade it to +5 or max level from our adventures in 2.2 and 2.3. If you haven't, you can simply farm some souls, which I also did to get there because I had to go to the Filthy Man Merchant in level 2-2, and he actually sells you the shards for upgrades for the Dragon Longsword. Regardless, you're going to head down here to begin. The other item also I recommend is the Thief's Ring along with the Cling Ring, and you're going to see why it has a lot of utility and use for this level. You can see Grave Robber Blige is over here if you rescued him in 4.1. And then you would step on this little button there that I just walked over to have access to this room. It would open a cutscene. Here we have one of the most annoying enemies in the game in the form of the Reapers. These Grim Reaper style enemies, as you can see, fall very quickly to the Dragon Longsword because they are pretty susceptible to fire damage, which is great. They actually control several specter ghosts around the battle area that you are in, and the ghosts try to harm you with physical attacks and otherwise just get in your way. The Reaper is the one that you need to watch for because he can cast Soul Ray very quickly, which does a ton of damage, as well as melee attacks, which do magic damage as well. I stopped behind that altar because that actually is another button that opens that entranceway that you can see in front of you towards the back of the room on the bottom floor. But before we go through there, we're going to take a quick detour here. We find our good friend Patches, who's there just saying, oh, I'm just standing around here. There's something in the hole here. And he ends up giving you a swift kick in the backside down this little pit. And it is here where we will meet a very vital NPC who will give us an outstanding miracle once we complete this level. So this guy over here is Saint Urbane. Saint Urbane is a priest, a high priest who teaches miracles and advanced miracles. So he's basically the counterfoil to Sage Frake, who we rescued earlier in our playthrough in 3-1. So we need to rescue him out of this cell, but there is a phantom blocking the exit, so we just need to go in and ruin his day. The Phantom, as you can see, is very quick, so don't expect the soul rays to work too well unless you get close in, but by then he's usually close enough to attack you. So you're just going to bait out his attack, block ones with your shield. He does repel against it, and you can see again the Dragon Longsword getting the job done as I continually cut him down, and he's not really much of a challenge at all. So from here we head back over to Saint Urbane, tell him he is free to leave whenever he is ready, and he will be transported back to the Nexus, where we will pick up our spell at the end of this level. That item up on the rubble there is an item that we can get in pure white tendency, which we will achieve once we defeat this level. So you can actually go back. It's a katana sword called the Makoto sword, and it's cool, I guess. It does a lot of bleed damage, but it also is a cursed weapon. I believe it drains your health the longer you have it equipped, so maybe not great for you, and definitely not for our build that we have on the easy build, but it's still a fun item to grab. We return to Patches and confront him. We let him go, and he gives us a gash resistance ring, which prevents bleeding damage and bleeding resistance. And that's great, but not something we would use for our build. But if you're one of those farmers looking for the achievement for collecting every ring in the game, that is certainly the way to go about doing that. Up this stairwell here, there is a trap button that will shoot arrows, but you can see right there on the right. But we can easily avoid it and grab the item. And down here is an illusory wall. So this wall will bring us over to some crystal lizards that we can get to get more upgrade materials. There is, however, a katana-wielding phantom towards the bottom here, a red-eye phantom, and they are incredibly difficult. So what we are going to do is we are going to bombard him with magic. You can even see he's resistant to magic, so that really doesn't do much for us here. But I still whittle him down as best I can. And basically, you're just going to do the same thing we did with that other Phantom from earlier. Bait out his attacks. He'll usually do that charging attack when you're at a medium distance. So it's just take a step back, wait for him to finish the attack, walk up, hit him 2 or 3 times, and then fall back again to that medium distance. So it's not that hard in a straight, narrow hallway. He's much more dangerous when there are, winding, narrow paths or cliff sides that you can be knocked down over. So we run up this rampway here. And there is our Crystal Lizard that will give us some very important items if we want to upgrade our Crescent Falchion. Full disclosure, with the with level 2 completely done here, the Crescent Falchion isn't nearly as strong as the Dragon Longsword is, at least in my opinion, unless you really crank up your magic ability stack, because it scales with that type of damage. So it depends on where you go with the easy build from here on out. Another side note, at the end of this level, we will have our end game build. We won't need any more items that the rest of the game can really give us. The rest are just nice to haves and just for fun to experiment around, but the core concept here will be done after this level. So how you build the character going forward, I would just recommend dumping points in strength or in health, vitality, endurance, and magic. Pretty much it. That's all you need. So anyway, we return back to the room where the Reaper was in that we found initially. We drop down, and then we head through the opening on the far side of the room, which once again is opened by the button that is located behind that altar. And here, as we round the corner, there's another collectible, but there is a very long stretch of cliffside that we have to walk across that is very narrow and very easy for us to fall to our death. So you need to be extremely careful in this area. Now, the reason why we have the Thief Ring equipped makes its presence felt here. Those 3 skeletons usually aggro you around the same time without the Thieves Ring. They notice you immediately. With the Thieves Ring, you can get a couple of quick pot shots in and get a shot or 2 in, and then you can just basically run up. If you just continue sprinting towards the wall here, you can vault up. But even with the Thief Ring equipped, you can see he just... Actually, I think he just fell off to his death. That's awesome. Sometimes they will drop aggro regardless, and that's just really helpful for us. And if you have to fight them melee, you do just that. You, once again, bait the attack, wait for the animation to finish, and then just attack with the Dragon Longsword. It does a lot of damage. It's really solid. But that's just the first part. The second part, you're going to have to face 2 more skeletons, this time with the giant meat cleaver looking weapons here. And they are much more formidable. They have a ton of health. They are fairly resistant to magic. They block the magic attacks, like as you can see here. And they do a ton of damage, physically speaking. And I think I'm going to take a hit here. Oh, no, not with this one. The next one will definitely hit me, and you'll see just how much damage they can do, even with our head start that we had up to this point. So here I'm out of magic points. I'm going to drop a soul consumable item to regenerate some, so I can just bombard him with magic. As you can see, magic does a pretty good job, but you see, I just got hit there once, and it did roughly 30% of my health in damage, so those aren't fun, and they pack a wallop, and those swipes can knock you back sometimes too, and knock you off the cliff to your death, so avoid that if you can. They drop Bladestone shards, which are great for dexterity builds. Not really anything we need for our build. The Storied Warrior Soul is a great soul consumable item that you would want to collect, obviously. Now, once we go through this fog gate, we're going to head down this long hallway, and we are going to face off against another Reaper. These Reapers, they like to hide, and they are very, first-time players through this area may not even realize where they are until it's too late, and they are staring at a "you died" screen. They also have these specters that shoot laser beams, and as you can see, the laser beam melts you. It did over half of my health and damage because I got clipped by it, and it can continuously combo hit off of you if you stand in its path. So with that first specter there, I ran as far to the right as I could. It wasn't far enough. Sometimes that just happens. You're going to eat a hit, and that's okay. Just wait for the laser animation to stop firing, and then wail off with your sword. Here's another example of a laser, but this time you can just run past him to the left-hand side, get behind him, and whack him. Just make sure that you keep moving quickly because they do respawn, so that could be a monster of a pain in the butt there. The Reaper is hiding behind that crevice there, which is right by an edge, so you really just need to hit him once, maybe twice, and he falls to his death. And you can see a few other life bars go to 0 because all the ghost creatures in the area disappear along with him. So we run down the hallway here, and then there is our next fog gate. There are some items over on the right-hand side. I skipped them. I'm just going to double back once I defeat the boss if I wanted them back. I don't believe they're anything. I think they're Stone of Ephemeral Eyes, so nothing you desperately need in this particular area. Just keep progressing. We have another cliff face. So the cliff faces, also keep in mind with the Thieves Ring, the manta rays don't attack you, or at least they attack you very, very infrequently. And that's really helpful because otherwise they'll be taking pot shots at you while you're battling the skeletons walking along the cliffside. They become a really big nuisance. So again, the Thief Ring pays dividends here. Here's another Spectre, and that is just a physical attack Spectre, so we don't have to worry about it. But we have to run down this hallway because there is a laser Spectre here, and then just to his left is a Reaper, right there. Sometimes the Reaper will launch a Soul Ray right at you, and it will hit you, and it will do a ton of damage, and that's just, you know, the worst thing that can happen. But with the slashing motion of the Dragon Longsword, as soon as you make that left-hand turn, you should be out of range of the laser, and you can attack that Reaper with impunity, because he does stagger when you hit him with this weapon. Finally, we go down some tunnel area once again, and as we approach the end of this tunnel, we come up to this wide open area with this big phosphorus lake. You can see there are a lot of grabbable items there and those slugs that can combo you, but they're very slow. They're pretty easy to get around. And those white sprite fairy things actually detonate when you touch them, so you want to try to avoid them as best you can. So usually I would say drop into the phosphorus pit and pick up all those wonderful items, but instead we're going to skip this whole area and just go straight to the boss fight. Because once we defeat the boss of this level, we can then just easily double back to this lake and pick up all of those items from there. So we're going to head up the stairwell here. We're going to keep the Thief's Ring equipped. We're going to equip our Late Moon Grass for just in case we get tagged. But the boss fight here is the Old Hero. Now, the Old Hero is a very interesting boss fight because it has a great gimmick. I actually really enjoy this gimmick. He's blind, so he actually tries to seek you out through sound. So you're just trying to walk around stepping on like bones or breaking pottery. He knows exactly where you are at that point, and he comes at you hard. His attacks deal tons of damage, and obviously you want to avoid him at all costs. You can attack from a range if you have a lot of MP restoration items. However, with the Thief's Ring equipped, it kind of just trivializes this whole boss fight. So all you're really going to do is smack him a couple times from behind. He's going to go Super Saiyan, and you'll see what I mean with that in just a second. But then once he does that, you just kind of backtrack. He'll throw a little diaper tantrum, and then once he's done searching for you like he is now, you just rinse and repeat. See, so here we go. Here's an attack. You walk up, smack him a few times. You can see it does very good damage with the Dragon Longsword. There's that Super Saiyan pose that I mentioned, and he doesn't even try to find you. He just kind of wanders off and swings randomly again. So you walk up, smack him a few more times, and then go Super Saiyan, you run back, and you just try to avoid it. Sometimes he'll do that, and that's an AoE. It's a short AoE attack. It's pretty easy to dodge as long as you're falling backwards. And then here I am just bombing him with what magic I have left. You can see he does jumping, leaping attacks in the direction that the magic is coming from, and that does hurt really bad, so make sure you're at a long distance from him. Also, the other thing I noticed when I fought him with the Dragon Longsword is that the Dragon Longsword's attack animations really shoot you forward, and a lot of times I found myself being in front of him instead of behind him the whole time like I'm supposed to be. So when that happens, you basically, the best pattern is an R2 attack, a very strong attack like that. You'll see me do it again. It's like a big thrust, and then followed by 2 R1 attacks, and those are just 2 quick slashes. So he's just going to circle around the level like this, wandering around aimlessly, and this is pretty much the whole gist of the fight. You can see I flail my sword around wildly, and I wind up in front of him, and that's dangerous because he's going to do this backspin swing that can catch a player off guard. So again, make sure you only take 2 or 3 shots, even if you miss with them, and then just double back and then rinse and repeat and start over. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this fight because honestly, this is pretty much the long and short of the battle. And there we have it. Just like that, fight is over. Old Hero is dead. and you will get to claim his soul. The old hero soul that we get for a reward for beating this enemy actually can be traded into Saint Urbane, the NPC that we saved earlier in the level, and he gives us a spell called Second Chance. And Second Chance is a spell that you can cast. It's a miracle, so you have to have a Talisman of God equipped, which we should have in storage. And with it, you cast it, and it basically brings you back from death. So if you get cheesed off by an enemy, or you get defeated somewhere and you have to get brought back to life, it'll bring you back to life with half HP, so you can roll out of the situation, reassess, and get basically another shot at fighting in the level without going back to the Archstone. So it's a completely optional spell, to be perfectly honest, but it's really nice to have, for especially for a newer player, and especially in a lot of the areas like Valley of Defilement, where poison and plague damage can get you and tag you and kill you, and then you just get to come back and start over again. It's really helpful. It has saved my bacon quite a few times. So yeah, and basically, as I mentioned with that boss fight, just take your time with it and you'll drop him no problem. Now, Second Chance does take 2 memory slots, which is why in a previous video, I asked to make sure your faith is at 16 or higher, because that's where you get the second memory slot. So if you want this spell, you're going to have to spend a few points in faith. Of course, if you want to do it alone and not bother with Second Chance, you don't really need to. You could just pump those points back into Vitality, Endurance, and Magic. So, I mean, it's up to you how you want to build it from here. The core concept of our build is complete, and the rest of the game is just going to be us navigating the perils and the bosses of the remainder of Demon's Souls. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I kindly ask that you like and subscribe to be notified when I post more content. Also, don't forget to join me on Twitch. I'll have a link in the description below. I like to do live streams very often. And I also enjoy doing Discord, because I actually have a Discord channel set up, and I'll leave a link for that as well, so you can join. I'm trying to build a community where we just talk about games and encourage each other through various titles. So I hope you enjoyed it, and once again, I will hopefully see you in the next video. Until then, take care.